We've talked a few times about good and bad perks in COD history. Perks were introduced back in COD 4, completely changed first-person shooters forever, not just Call of Duty. Now, certain games have better perk selection than others. Every single COD multiplayer has some good ones, some bad ones, and today we are going to go through the entire series, COD 4, all the way to Modern Warfare 2, and we're going to single out the worst perk in every single Call of Duty. And before you say, Jimmy, you've done this list already, just stick with it, because I've recently gone back to all of these games, and a lot of my opinions have changed. So let me know what you think the worst perk in COD history is, or give me your full franchise list in the comments if you feel like it. Drop a like and let me know what every COD topic you want us to tackle next. We start off with COD 4. It has to be Bomb Squad. I've said a few times on the channel that Eavesdrop was the worst perk in COD 4, but when I look back, I think Bomb Squad actually annoyed me the most. Yes, Eavesdrop was pointless, but every once in a while it would come in clutch. Bomb Squad, on the other hand, was a perk that countered claymores and only claymores, meaning if the enemy team wasn't running claymores, it was useless. It was basically an early version of Engineer highlighting enemy equipment through walls for users to see, but the only plantable equipment in COD 4 was the claymore. And since the claymore was a perk instead of an actual equipment piece, I think about only 5% of the COD 4 player base was using it. Bomb Squad laid the foundation for Engineer. It did, but it wasn't very good. Before we move on, guys, if you're looking for a new PS5 or Xbox Series X, we have multiple giveaways running. I'm going to link them at the top of the description. They're all over on Twitter. You can enter all of them. We are going to be giving away so much stuff from now all the way through the rest of 2022, so make sure you take advantage. World at War. Special grenades ×3. Now, back in COD 4, this was a nightmare perk. It was powerful. The flashbangs and concussions were crazy. But when the perk returned in World at War, it wasn't nearly as much of a problem because of how underwhelming the special grenades were. Instead of having things like flashbangs, concussion grenades, World at War had signal flares and smoke grenades. Yeah, people hardly used them at all. Why would you triple your inventory? Because of the large open map design of World at War, the special grenades you had at your disposal weren't very helpful. And the only reason to use specials in the game was if you didn't have anything else in that perk category. It sucked. You know it, and I know it. At Modern Warfare 2, the first one, Scrambler. I've done this topic a few times on the channel, but this is an opinion that never changes. Scrambler is hands down the worst perk in original Modern Warfare 2 because it does the exact opposite of what it's supposed to, and nobody in Infinity Ward seemed to notice. Tier 3 perk, jam enemy radars if they get too close, which sounds helpful on paper, but in practice, it wasn't. If you were running around the battlefield and all of a sudden your mini-map goes scratchy, you know an enemy is there with a Scrambler. Then you just start doing the awkward dance of trying to figure out where the scramble signal is the strongest, and you take them out. It was meant to be a stealth perk, but it ended up painting a target on the user's head because it made it literally impossible to sneak up on enemy. Now we've arrived at one of my favorite Call of Duties of all time, Scout, Black Ops 1. Now, it should have been helpful, but because of fundamental issues with the gameplay, it was borderline senseless. Scout was a red perk that allowed you to hold your breath for a longer period of time when you were using a sniper rifle. That's it. So why is it a problem? Well, because hardly anybody was sniping in Black Ops 1. If you know your COD history, you know that Black Ops 1 sniping was completely busted on launch. Treyarch's hatred for quickscoping showed. The ADS way was strong, it made aggressive sniper play nearly impossible, and it made traditional sniper play obnoxious. Eventually, they caved and they made sniping a little more smooth, but by that point, the metagame had left them behind. Scout truly was a useless perk. It was supposed to benefit a kind of playstyle that nobody was using. Modern Warfare 3. Overkill. Now, Overkill is a staple of Call of Duty, but I think it's very easy to call it the worst perk in this game. Modern Warfare 3 was stacked. Powerful secondary weapons, the MP9, the FMG9, the 44 mag, and many, many more. There wasn't really any reason to take Overkill with you in all that regard, but the perk itself was just kind of lame. It was in the same category as Assassin and Quick Draw, so nobody was going to run it. And to make matters worse, you couldn't run any attachments on your secondary primary weapon unless you got the perk to Overkill Pro, which, that was a nightmare to grind. Modern Warfare 3's Overkill wasn't worth it. Easily the worst perk in that game. Now we've arrived at what some consider to be the best game of all time in Call of Duty history. Black Ops 2. Now this was a hard choice because all the perks in the game were useful and well balanced, but I'm going to go with Hardline. In previous versions of this list, I said awareness was the worst, but in retrospect, I think the S&D community got a decent amount of usage out of that one. Hardline, on the other hand, you hardly ever saw it, mainly because of how stacked the blue perk category was in Black Ops 2. Hardline would make all your score streaks 16% cheaper, but it was sitting in the same category as Ghost, Flak Jacket, Lightweight, Blind Eye. You can see what I'm talking about. The bonus didn't apply to UAV and or counter UAV assists, so the benefits kind of canceled themselves out for OBJ players. Black Ops 2 was a balanced game, but I'm going to say this is the worst. Call of Duty Ghosts. Resilience. Ghost had a lot of perks. Like a lot. In an attempt to shake up the formula back during the development, IW decided to go away from traditional perks and do something new some people liked it, others felt it was overcomplicated. I mean, I hope it never happens again in a future Infinity War game, haha. Anyways, Resilience was part of the Resistance perk category, and out of everything in the entire game, I think it was the least popular. It would negate falling damage from a user, but when you consider the kind of game Ghost was, it wasn't needed. Aside from the fact there were far better perks at your disposal, Ghost didn't have a lot of areas where you could die from fall damage or even get hurt. Yes, there were some areas where a fall could hurt, but these areas weren't nearly common enough for you to take a whole perk dedicated to negating the effects of those said falls. Resilience was barely used in COD Ghost multiplayer. I think it belongs here. Advanced Warfare. Danger Close. It's one of those perks that has a really bad reputation because of its infamous appearance in the original Modern Warfare 2, but in other COD games, it's actually been powerful. For example, the AW version was kind of crappy. As expected, this perk would increase your explosive and score streak damage, but the problem with that was the fact you rarely got explosive damage in this game. When everybody had jetpacks and they could launch them into 20 feet into the air with a push of a button, it's easy to avoid grenades and score streaks, so why would you take a perk with you that makes them more powerful? I can understand a perk that would make the blast radius bigger or make them easier to connect with enemies, but a simple damage buff was not enough to make it worth it. Danger Close was kind of pointless. Black Ops 3. Overclock. BO3 was the first COD game to use specialist abilities, and while this gameplay feature would eventually become widely hated by the community, the initial version was fun. People enjoyed Black Ops 3's multiplayer for the most part, but Overclock, it didn't get used. Blue perk. Charge your specialist ability 25% faster. That's pretty significant, right? But it really only came in clutch for certain characters. A lot of the specialist abilities charged rather quickly, especially if you were decent at the game. So taking a perk that sped up their recharge time, it didn't seem worth it. It was only helpful if you were using one of the really, really long recharge abilities, but even then, you could charge them perfectly quickly by just getting better at the game and boosting your score. And speaking of Overclock, we segue. Infinite Warfare. Overclock. The blue perk returned in IW, practically untouched, once again, rendered useless. Infinite Warfare had an even smaller reliance on specialist abilities, although they were called combat rigs and payloads now, and the Overclock ended up getting even less field usage than previously. Just take all the problems with Black Ops 3's Overclock and amplify them by 8.5%. I came up with that out of my head, and you've got the Infinite Warfare version. Let's move on. COD World War II. Rifleman. Rifleman or Rifleman? As you probably know, COD World War II had basic training instead of traditional perks, and you could only take one into battle. You really had to be sure it was a good one. That being said, nobody was running Rifleman. I mean, unlocked at level 12, this basic training allowed you to take two primary weapons into battle with you and swap between them faster than normal. Basically, it was Overkill Pro for Modern Warfare 3, and most people just didn't want to do it. When you only had one basic training at your disposal, you had to be sure you were making the right choice when building your class, and at the end of the day, there was about a dozen options that were undeniably better than Rifleman. Unless you were completing challenges, it was pointless. Black Ops 4. Skulker. Black Ops 4 didn't have many perks compared to previous games, and there weren't many new additions. Most of your returners were helpful, but new ones like Skulker, it was kind of like Stalker, but kind of dumb. You probably know it makes you faster when aiming down sights, but Skulker would make you faster when crouched and prone, and I guess there's certain situations where it's helpful, and I suppose it was a prototype of Revenant for Apex Legends, but I barely remember anybody using it. If you wanted to get around the map faster, use Lightweight. If you wanted to get around the map in a more stealthy fashion, Dead Silence. It just didn't have a place in the sandbox. Modern Warfare 2019. Kill Chain. Now, this game had a pretty solid lineup of perks. Yes, some of them were annoying, but they were all viable, and there weren't really any flat-out bad ones. So if I had to pick the bottom of the barrel, I'm going to go with Kill Chain, which was a blue perk that I hardly ever saw. When you used it, the kills you got from your kill streaks would count towards your next kill streak, similar to how they worked in the original Modern Warfare 2. This means, if you get 5 kills and called in an airstrike that got you 2 kills, you now have 7 instead of 5. So why was it the worst perk? Well, aside from the fact it shared the perk 1 category with EOD, Cold Blood, and Double Time, the streaks in Modern Warfare, they weren't really hard to get on your own, and oftentimes they wouldn't even get you enough extra kills to make Kill Chain worth it. It's not that it was a bad perk, it's that it was in perk 1's category. Black Ops Cold War. Gearhead. This was hard. Treyarch usually does a really good job balancing their perks, and Cold War was, they had a good lineup. So if I had to pick the one, it would probably be Gearhead, but I don't think it was bad. It would reduce your field upgrade charge time and allow you to store 2 charges instead of 1. This came in clutch for things like armor plates, but aside from that, people didn't really care. The field upgrades in Black Ops Cold War charge relatively quickly and were mostly a set it and forget it type of situation, so having a perk specifically dedicated to making them more spammable, it wasn't really necessary. Again, it wasn't a bad perk, but the amount of benefit you got from it, it just wasn't worth it compared to other perks at your disposal. COD Vanguard. Mechanic. Once again, the perk dedicated to reducing your field upgrade charge. Worst in the game, I guess, and once again, it wasn't universally bad. It just, I don't know. Vanguard had especially fast charge times for most of their field upgrades, especially if you were good at the game, so there really was no reason to use one of your dedicated perk slots on something that should be default anyway, right? I'm just going to move on. So we get to the end. Modern Warfare 2. Pitcher. Now, the full version of MW2 is not out as of the making of this video, so this is subject to change, but after playing the beta and weighing in, I think this is it right now. It allows you to throw equipment further, and it will give you a little trajectory on your screen when winding up, which allows you to get a little more accurate with your throws. Maybe I'm in the minority, but I really don't see the point. You can already throw equipment rather far in Modern Warfare 2 without a perk, and if you just pay attention to where you're throwing it, you don't really need the little trajectory pop-up to guess where it's going to land. I'm not denying that Pitcher can be helpful in certain situations. I just don't see the point in using it over other perks like EOD, Battle Harden, Tracker, or even Scavenger. Maybe it'll be buffed in the full version of the game later this month, but right now, I really don't see the point of Pitcher. And there you have it. That is the worst perk in every single Call of Duty to date. Let me know where we got it right. Let me know where we got it wrong. Get in on those giveaways, and I'll see you soon.